2018 marks the 40th anniversary of Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras, a timely opportunity to ask ourselves three crucial questions. First, what was it that gave birth to that first gay Mardi Gras? Second, what kind of event was it? Third, what were its ramifications? I shall return to these questions shortly. The 1970s was a decade of great social, political, and cultural change. 6 months before the dawn of the 1970s and some 3 weeks before the Stonewall riots, Hair, the rock musical, premiered in Sydney on the 6th of June 1969 at the Minerva Theatre in Potts Point. It was the age of Aquarius in the summer of love. Blokes took a liking to long hair. Women burnt their bras. A generation of Australians was out protesting for peace, relishing the opportunity of experimenting with drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Hair denounced the Vietnam War and conscription. It endorsed liberation. It promoted a radical hippie counterculture. And in 1970, the Campaign Against Moral Persecution, CAMP, the country's first explicit political gay organization, was formed. Countless gay men and lesbians came out, taking pride in their sexuality. More importantly, they came together to agitate for change. Everyone had his or her own vision of what they wanted changed, their own version of a revolution. 2 years later, in 1972, a political tsunami saw Gough Whitlam elected Prime Minister of Australia. Years of conservative rule were unceremoniously brushed aside. When John Kerr sacked Whitlam on the 11th of November 1975, the Conservatives were unable to turn back the clock, however hard they tried. In the 1970s, homosexuals led different lives in a different Australia. We had no CDs, no DVDs. We had no mobiles or laptops. We had no Facebook, no Google, no Twitter, no online dating, and no internet. We met at bars. For gay men, there were also the beats, the backrooms, the adult bookshops, and the saunas. Some newspapers carried dating sections, but gay men also used the share accommodation sections of major newspapers for pickups. We had interesting home and office furnishings. We had typewriters and Gestetner. I was the proud owner of a Weltron radio and record player that looked like a flying saucer. And let's not forget the lava lamps, the beanbags, rubber plants, bead curtains, and waterbeds. We had even more interesting fashions. For summer, among other attire, I had a revealing no-sleeves cowhide vest, no doubt matching my cowhide rug that took pride of place in my lounge room. For winter, a long-sleeve unlined blue velvet jacket with intricate yellow, silver, and gold embroidery. I think I wore that jacket at the first Mardi Gras. Heads must have turned when I walked around glebe in my velvet jacket. I staggered around on snakeskin platform shoes I bought from Mr. Figgins. I also acquired a pair of lackluster black platform shoes. The decision to dye them conservative blue was not wise. The color turned out to be far more dazzling than I had imagined. The moment I stepped out of my unit in Wigram Road, Glebe, the shoes took a life of their own, most commuters finding it especially challenging not to notice them. Why do I say this? I say it because in the 1970s we used our clothes, our hairdos, and our jewelry to broadcast our homosexuality. Alongside the political arm of the movement, a style revolution was in full swing. There was a very dark side to the 1970s. In New South Wales, we fought for the repeal of the Summary Offences Act. The Act gave the police commissioner wide discretion to refuse the holding of a march, a rally, a demonstration. The political activists were up in arms and called for the repeal of the Act. We also fought for the repeal of some sections of the Crimes Act that criminalized private, consensual, adult male homosexual acts. The crime of buggery was punishable by penal servitude of up to 14 years. There were penalties also for attempted buggery, outrages of decency, and soliciting a male person in a public place. The anti-homosexual laws provided bashers with a rationale to attack gay people, and to do so with little fear of reprisals. There were agents provocateurs. Poufter baiting and bashings were not uncommon. Groups of men would follow gay men at beats, cliff jumping, that is, pushing gay men off cliffs to their death, being one of their many pastimes. Gay men were stabbed to death in their homes. Police were disinclined to take such crimes seriously, often dismissing them as the unavoidable outcome of lives dangerously lived. In 1978, Oxford Street was the place to be. At night, gay men colonized the street, many setting aside Friday and Saturday nights for bar hopping, with stopovers for a coffee and a bite to eat in coffee shops like Nana's. Disco bunnies and older bar queens made their way in and out of Capriccios, Palms, Patches, and other gay haunts. The clones opted for Signal, a dimly lit venue in a large warehouse with 3 bars. It was strictly men only. Crown Street was lesbian territory, and Ruby's was their bar. For gay men, Oxford Street between Green Park and Hyde Park was the den of iniquity, peddling pleasure, promiscuity, and political incorrectness. It was the street for unabashed eroticism and sexuality. Some activists shunned Oxford Street. For them, it was a dark wood of capitalism and patriarchy. Marxist, socialist, anarchist, and radical and separatist feminists were not amused. We cannot begin to understand Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras without identifying the problem it set out to resolve. As John Lee acknowledged, by 1978, the heady old days of demonstrations and marches were more or less things of the past. It was as long as 1973 when the last nationally coordinated gay pride marches took place. The same activists were turning up at public events. A conservative federal government looked as if it was unassailable. In New South Wales, the Labour government was dragging its heels on reform. In the United States, a militant anti-homosexual rights campaign was in full swing. On the 8th of March 1978, the Community Participation Committee of the San Francisco Gay Freedom Day Committee for Cultural Affairs sent a letter to friends calling on them to organize gay rights activities for the 25th of June 1978. Australia's response to the call was the International Homosexual Solidarity Day of the 24th of June 1978. Typically, the focus of the day was on political activities, a morning march through the city and an afternoon public meeting at Paddington Town Hall. The great fear was that the same old activists would turn up to these events. So a dance at Petersham Town Hall on the eve of International Homosexual Solidarity Day was planned to attract movement lesbians who were not interested in Oxford Street. The Mardi Gras along Oxford Street, as Mark McMahon had indicated, was for the boys, in the heart of the male gay ghetto. The dance and the Mardi Gras bookended the political events. The three central figures responsible for Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras were members of the Campaign Against Moral Persecution, CAMP. Ron Austin's idea of a street party was a masterstroke. Mark McMahon christened the event Mardi Gras. Lance Gowland made the event a reality. What they all had in mind was an apolitical Mardi Gras. Many of the activists on the fringe of the political arm of the movement put scorn on the idea of a gay Mardi Gras. For all that, many of these activists have taken to formulating narratives of Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras to suit their political agendas. Their claims of what happened on the night of the 24th of June 1978 and the early hours of the next day have become the stuff of legend. We have all been socialized to think of the first gay Mardi Gras as a political demonstration, a protest. But a political event would not have worked its magic. There is no way that gay men would have abandoned the bars along Oxford Street for a political protest. As Lance Gowland has made clear, the bar patrons distrusted the activists, especially those of them who were on the fringe of the political arm of the movement. It is time to confront the menace of promoting a constructed post-truth of alternative facts, and at times self-serving history. In celebrating the 40th anniversary of Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras, we should not be afraid to ask the tough questions, because, as the saying goes, the devil is in the detail, not in the interventions of those who wish to revise history, our history. It is now time to tackle the questions I put at the beginning of this discussion. The first question, what was it that gave birth to Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras, almost sounds superfluous. After all, Mardi Gras formed part of International Gay Solidarity Day, Australia's response to the US call to arms. What is there more to add? Such a response, however, fails to address the problem that Ron Austin was grappling with. That problem was the refusal of gay men and lesbians to be part of the political arm of the movement and their great distrusts of the activists and what they were up to. Put bluntly, gay men and lesbians did not identify with the socialist, communist, anarchist, and radical feminist agendas of many of the activists. They saw these activists as incidental homosexuals, to use Gary Witherspoon's phrase. The problem predated International Homosexual Solidarity Day. Ron Austin's primary focus was on resolving that problem, not on adding an extra event on the calendar of International Homosexual Solidarity Day. We now move to the second question. What kind of event was Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras? The first Mardi Gras was not a political demonstration. It was not a protest march. It could not have been a political march, not in the middle of winter, not at 10:30 p.m., not in Oxford Street, where most of those watching would have been gay men. Ron Austin, Lance Gowland, and Mark McMahon did not see Mardi Gras as a political event. Lance Gowland made it very clear that the Gay Solidarity Group, responsible for organizing Homosexual Solidarity Day, refused to organise Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras. Max Pierce, a member of the Gay Solidarity Group, admitted that, and I quote, "We all thought the idea was a bit silly. The Gay Solidarity Group did not even take up the suggestion of a parade as proposed in the letter from San Francisco's Community Participation Committee." Put bluntly, the Gay Solidarity Group could not see past organizing political events. It was unable or unwilling to think outside the box. The third question: what were the ramifications of Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras? There are many. The politics of celebration made inroads into the politics of protest. Within a few years, those who sought to impose their political dogma on the rest of us were sidelined. Former outsiders of the inner sanctum of political activism ultimately made their way into the Mardi Gras parades, to the annoyance of some activists, who to this day continue to complain that Mardi Gras is not political enough. They included artists, musicians, writers, dancers, drag queens, scene queens, disco bunnies, theists, gay businesses, bar owners and patrons, and members of social, cultural, and religious groups. It made the repeal of the Summary Offences Act and some sections of the Crimes Act inevitable. It consolidated Sydney's reputation as the gay and lesbian capital of Australia, and it gave us an annual event that many countries envy. Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras changed our lives. As we approach the 40th anniversary of Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras, we must not forget to honour Ron Austin, Lance Gowden, and Mark McMahon, who in different ways were the architects of Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras. And we must not forget the bar patrons whose voices have been silenced and who have been written out of the narratives or given grudging mention. Have a happy and safe Mardi Gras.